What's going on, y'all? Jordan with another episode of Lightning Latest. Pretty packed one today. There's a couple different things we're going to talk about. We're going to touch on part 2 of the Jake Allen discussion from the other day. We're also going to talk about Nick Perbix and what his loss means. Another what if, which will be fun. But I want to start us off, actually, with the Stadium Series matchup. The Athletic is named our matchup against the Bruins and the Stadium Series on February 1st as one to watch, which is kind of obvious, right? I mean, this is the first Stadium Series matchup we'll host. The Panthers are going to host the actual Winter Classic. Whatever. But, it's going to be a lot of fun for our fans. Ray J's done a lot of different things in the past. It's hosted WrestleMania a couple times. It's, hosted Monster Jam a lot. It just hosted the Savannah Bananas as well. So, I mean, there's just so much they can do there. So I like the fact that they're going to have the Stadium Series matchup there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Could be a matchup of playoff teams. We talked about the other day, the Athletic 100% chance for the Bolts to make it, which we all agree with as well. The Bruins, we'll see. There's still a lot of questions of if they're going to be there or not. But this will be the second Stadium Series matchup that the Bolts played in, actually. They played against Nashville a couple years ago, won that game up in Nashville, and that was a lot of fun. My aunt actually went to that game and told me how much of a fun atmosphere it was. So hopefully this year's matchup that we host will lead to us hosting a Winter Classic in the future, which would be awesome. Usually the temperature's usually not an issue early February. It should be okay. Hopefully it doesn't get up to the low 80s or 90s. I doubt it will. Usually you get some pretty nice weather then, and that's usually when Gasparilla is as well. So Stadium Series will be really, really fun to watch, and I think a lot of our fans are really going to enjoy going. So let's switch gears, though. We're going to talk about our man Jake Allen. It would have been nice to have him. We talked about the other day, right? To give Vasi more rest during the regular season, right? So he wanted to play, let's just say, for example, back-to-back games on the road, or 3 nights in a row. It's stuff like that. You want to keep your top goaltender healthy. We only have him under contract for another 3 years. As long as he maintains the form he has throughout his career, we should be fine. He did have a little bit of regression last year. I think it's mostly because coming back from that injury, and getting back into form. Once he got back into form, it was, same old Vasi. But, having Jake Allen would have been nice because when we get to the postseason, you really need all the goaltending you can get, right? Last year, the Oilers, especially when Stuart Skinner got hot for them, they were very hard to beat. And then once they hit the Stanley Cup final, it was the Panthers just had their way with them. The Panthers have won because Bob has stepped in and played that key critical shutdown role. He's getting up there, but they still got another year left with him, so that's the other reason why the Panthers could definitely win it again this year, as much as a lot of people don't want to hear that. But having Jake Allen would have been nice because, it wouldn't have been a 1A, 1B situation like he's going to have with Jacob Markstrom, but, he still would have had a good amount of game time. The idea would have been to keep Vasi fresher for a postseason run, especially because he's already carried us through so many postseason runs in the past. So having him fresh for another 1, 2, or 3 of them, can't go wrong with that. And that's the goal, right? To have him locked in and ready to go. But, and we didn't get him. And Jake Allen's with the Devils now. And the Devils could make it to the playoffs. We could see them. We could see Jake Allen in the playoffs. It does stink that we didn't improve the backup situation. Hopefully Johansson proves me wrong, a lot of other people wrong, and plays better. But, it's... We'll see. We'll see. But talking about players we missed out on, one of them is Nick Perbix. And he played for us for a few years, and it's another homegrown contributor leaving, which it stinks. It's not ideal. You want to try to maintain all your players and keep all your players if you can, but the good thing is it's not really going to sting as much. He joined Stammer in Nashville, 2 years, $2.75 million. He can still grow at 26. He still has room to grow. He's still not quite in his prime yet. But, the problem is he's still very limited offensively. And, the goal is to improve those third and fourth lines, right? Both on defense and on offense. And if we don't have somebody that can carry their weight on both ends, then it's not really going to help us as we push towards the Stanley Cup. Nick Perbix didn't do that, really. He was a good third or fourth line guy, but, there's a reason he got the contract he did, and we didn't fight harder to retain him. If he does well there, though, would we want to try and bring him back in a couple of years? Will it be too expensive? Who knows? Anything can happen in the next couple of years. He could really explode and play great there and earn himself a nice big contract afterwards, or he can continue playing the solid death role he's been playing. So it's not really the biggest loss, I think, for the Bolts. There's other players coming up that can help, and you really want to see what J.J. Mosier's going to do. You want to see how much McDonough has left in the tank. You want to see if someone like a Darren Radish can take a next step forward in his contract here. All those kind of things played a role in not really bringing back Nick Perbix, and honestly, I don't really blame them. So, but this last topic is always fun because we do like a good what if. And this one is, what if Jack Eichel joins the Bolts? He's going to be another one of those big 2026 free agents we talked about, right? We already talked about Kirill Kaprizov and Kyle Connor and Connor McDavid. But Jack Eichel would add that he probably would be the second line center, like he is with Vegas, which would be just fine. Because Braden Point is one of the best centers in the league, especially when healthy. We all know that. We all know he's an absolute dynamic offensive threat. Having Eichel in that second center role would then allow Cirelli to slide to the third center and make the entire team stronger, right? This is what we talked about. We have those top tier free agents. You're going to strengthen the team because you're pushing already pretty talented players on the second and third lines down further to strengthen those third and fourth lines. That's great. The goal is to win a Stanley Cup. We haven't done that the last few years because we haven't had the depth in those back lines to really help push us forward, right? Not when we had like the triplets line, and we had Yanni Gourde and other players on those back ends that played well. Now Gourde's back, which is great, but he's older. So who knows how long he's going to be playing that third or fourth line role in a really effective manner for us. So think about it this way, too. We signed Jack Eichel, right? You have Point in the 1, Eichel at 2, Cirelli in 3, and then you put Yanni Gourde in the 4th center spot. It's a pretty good set of centers, if I don't mind me saying so. And this team can be great. It's unlikely he leaves Vegas, to be honest with you, though. Just because so many players want to go there. So many players like playing there. There hasn't really been anyone that's bashed the ownership. The ownership's been great there. So chances are he probably stays there. But, he's only 28. He's won a Stanley Cup, right? He helped lead Vegas to the Stanley Cup in 2023. So he's won titles. He knows, what it takes to get there. Remember also, he was the second pick of the 2015 NHL draft behind McDavid, right? So they've always been kind of compared. Obviously, McDavid's hit higher heights by himself, like offensively, but Eichel's won that title. McDavid hasn't yet. So it'll be interesting. He also had a career high 94 points last year with 28 goals and 66 assists. So he's really trying to make sure he can distribute the puck to other threats. That's his primary focus, but he's not afraid to slap it himself into the net. And it shows. I think he'll probably end up staying in Vegas, but he could easily fit in Coop's system here. And he could be the 1 or the 2 center. It wouldn't matter. I still think Point would be the 1 if we signed him. I think McDavid would be the only guy to supplant Point, but who knows what will happen. So we got a pretty interesting next few days ahead, too. We're going to talk more about the goaltending situation with Vasilevsky and his long-term situation. More what-ifs. We have so many interesting free agents coming out in 2026. And we've only talked about unrestricted guys so far. So there's even restricted guys, which we'll talk about in the next few days. We're also going to break down some recent deals that the Bulls have signed, including Yanni Gourds, and start taking a look more in depth about the preseason opponents we're going to be facing. This is Jordan with Lightning Latest. Can't wait to keep sharing more with you guys. We have so much more cool content coming, especially as preseason approaches. So, we'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.